I'm going to go ahead and so that I don't forget often once I start talking. And I also don't know about the weather where you are, but here in Greece, it is hot. I have not stopped sweating in a long time. And so if you see me dabbing, it's because it's really hot here. I will say, for those of you signing on, raining there. Okay, well, that's nice. That's refreshing. Coming in from, let's see, from England, Amanda. So nice to see you. Fem, of course, from the Netherlands. Kim from Boise, Maryland's in Mexico. Goodness, you guys. I think that in addition to all of these beautiful foundational programs we're doing, what we should do is like a rotation where we all go visit each other's houses. Wouldn't that be nice? And then we can do in-person things in everybody's place, but together. This is one of my dreams. So, of course, at the end of today's presentation, I'm just being like the person on the stage trying to get your attention while the performers are putting on the last bit of their makeup. But for those of you who are here in person, because we appreciate it so much, I know it's so easy to register for things and just get the replay. And I don't know about you, but I do that a lot, even for myself, because I really love continually learning. And I would say that I listen to maybe 20% of the things that I get the replay for. So we're really glad that you're here in person. And to celebrate that, at the end of the webinar today, we're going to do a little giveaway. Now, you'd see in the chat that we are signing in from so many different places in the world. So what I have chosen as the giveaway is the foundation is in the US, it's called Breathe. In Europe, it's called Air. In Mexico, it's called Easy Air. And there are a couple of different forms of this essential oil blend. It is a magnificent blend for opening the airways. And the reason that I chose it is because, of course, today we're going to jump into this idea of the foundational wellness immersion, really blending the physical, but also the mental, emotional, and I would even say soulful. And for me, this particular blend is like a superstar of this kind of holistic approach when you're using plant medicines, because not only does it open the airways so people with asthma, with bronchial infections, when you get the flu and you have a cough, you can use this for the physical symptoms. But in traditional Chinese medicine, the lung and the large intestine, the metal element, are related to the emotions of grief and mourning and sorrow and sadness, and also the idea of taking in and letting go. And so here we begin to see from a more holistic point of view that when we trend away from some of the very common synthetic and chemical interventions that we're used to in everyday life, and we get back to nature, one of the amazing things that we do, and a lot of times unknowingly, is we really just broaden the scope of what any given thing that we are using as an ally can do. And so at the end of the call, we'll do a little raffle. I've got all of your names on little pieces of paper, and now I just have to sort out who is actually here and who isn't, but I'll do that at the end so we can jump right into the presentation. And depending on where you live, that will determine what form of this beautiful essential oil blend you will get. So stay around. All right. Are you ready? So welcome to the Foundational Wellness Immersion webinar. My name is Molly. I'm a doctor of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine. I'm an international retreat leader. I teach yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and I consider myself incredibly fortunate because a lot of these traditions I came in contact with when I was really young. And I'm just going to go around and mute all of you so that you can hear me more clearly. And then at the end, I'll leave time for questions. If you have questions along the way, I'm going to shower you with hopefully a lot of really enriching information over the course of the next 45 minutes. If you have a question along the way, pop it in the chat, and then that will be a way that you don't have to remember it for the rest of the time and you can be really present and listening. And we will, of course, address that arrives in the chat at the end of the call, and also to have you unmute yourself and come on live. So as I was saying, I really consider myself to be fortunate because I came into contact with Taoism, with Buddhism, with a lot of nature-based philosophies, with the practice of yoga when I was still in my teenage years, my late teenage years. And so while a lot of people that come into this type of conversation nowadays, and we're going to dive pretty deep into this trend right away from what seems very common and normal into what appears to be trendy, but is actually very, very ancient, which is the realm of holism and natural medicine and natural living. While many people come into this conversation because nothing else has worked for them, I'm going to say I had the privilege to having these voices with me from a very young age. Does that mean that I haven't encountered many challenges with my health, an autoimmune disorder, valley fever, which comes with pneumonia as a symptom when I was living in the desert of Tucson? No, of course not. I have encountered the very human, right, like spectrum of challenges in my life. I was just really lucky to have a lot of tools already in my back pocket. And that's one of the reasons that I'm here today with you. And I've got some of my colleagues on the call. Marilyn is also a leader in her community of holistic living. Kim is also a leader in her community of holistic living. Stephanie is a leader in her community of holistic living. So I'm really thrilled to also be in the company of some of my colleagues and some of my community members. But what really draws us here is looking around and seeing a world where there's a lot of discomfort and there's a lot of suffering. And so I hope that's enough of an introduction to me, because you're not really here to learn about me. You're here to learn about this incredible program that we want to invite you into in August. So if you want to know more about me, you can just connect with me and I'll tell you all the ways. But I'd like to really just jump into it so that we can make this time together as fruitful as possible. And nope, not that one. View slideshow. Why do I always have such a difficult... There we go. I need also like someone in front of the stage when I'm doing this type of thing. Okay, so gang, while I'm sharing my screen, is everyone hearing me okay? Those of you that I can see? Yeah, great. Perfect. So while I'm sharing my screen, unfortunately, I can't see all of you. But if you can have your video on, that's wonderful. Even if it's on and off, if you're doing other things, again, we're just so happy that you're here in person. But where I'd like to start is with a little reflection. I'd love for you to take a look at this slide. And it's an odd place to start because when you look at this slide, it's like, whoa, that's a lot of stuff that we don't really want in our lives. But what I'd love to ask of you is just to glance down this list and type a 111 in the chat if you have encountered or are dealing with any of these things. Yeah. So the likelihood of you finding something on this list that is either part of your everyday life or comes and goes or you have befriended in your life is really high. Because as we look around life right now, there are so many incremental increases in what otherwise would be sort of a nuisance of a symptom that might used to come and go, but that now we're looking at as really chronic conditions. For those of you that just participated in that poll, and also for those of you that didn't, because I know you're there, and I know you probably would have typed 111 in the chat if you could have, how many of you, with relation to something that you're finding on the list, have ever heard yourself say about it, no, but it's okay? Like, are you okay with your headaches? No, but it's okay. Are you okay with your IBS? No, but it's okay. Can everyone relate to that? Yeah, thanks. Thanks for giving me some thumbs up and some activity. I just want to make sure that you stay awake as well with me as we're here. So this is kind of the realm that we're living in right now. And um, welcome also Lisa to the call. So this is where we've landed as a society. And although these things are very common, they're anything but normal. And hopefully in today's presentation, and also for those of you who do decide to choose into joining us in August, we'll begin to see not only why it doesn't need to be normal or common, but even more importantly, what do we do to start making it not normal or common? And so I love this picture. It comes into many of my presentations, but I think a lot of us can relate to the left side, right? Feeling a little gray. I feel like across the board, not only in particular countries, but life is a lot right now. And not only is our health declining as a society and as a human race for many of the reasons we're going to look at, but in general, because we've taken the no, but it's okay stance, things have just gotten incrementally harder and heavier and with less color. And so we tend to feel, at least on occasion, like this poor figure on the left, kind of scattered and in pieces. But where we really want to be is on the right side. And for those of you male figures who might be listening into the replay, or someone might share this with you, I'm sorry that it is a more feminine figure. I'm looking for the male version of this. If you find it, please let me know, because I would love to include all of humanity. It's not just a feminine thing, but it's right. It's really just bringing the color and integrity and holism back into every aspect of life. And so this is where we're starting. This is what we're dealing with. We are dealing with living in a current system that kind of says, no, but it's okay. And the action that's taken a lot of times is just like put a band-aid on it and you'll be okay, right? Like just cover it up and you'll be okay. That comes in the form of antibiotics. Sometimes that comes in the form of drinking alcohol to deal with your stress. That comes in the form of over-exercising to deal with your stress or your hormonal imbalances. That comes in the form of all sorts of ways that we are masking what has really been going on for us. And of course, where that's landed us is in this state where a lot of uncommon states of disharmony have become so normal that most people are walking around going, no, but it's okay. Or maybe that it's not okay, but you don't really know where to look for answers. And so, little by little, in the whole endeavor of holism and holistic medicine and holistic living and returning to nature, one of the primary things that we're really wanting to do is to take the band-aids off. It seems a little scary, doesn't it, to like look at the wounds that we've spent so much time covering up. And that is not only on the physical level, but also on the emotional level, the mental level, the spiritual level. We want to unpeel a few of those band-aids and look at what's there, be honest with what's there, and then begin to, in a very empowered way, make choices that will actually heal the things that are under the band-aid rather than just continually putting band-aids on top of the problems to pretend that they're not there. And again, as we know, looking around the system, it is without a doubt, we're spending more money than ever on healthcare. We have more science than we've ever had about the human condition, how the human being works, how the physiology of the human being works. We have more information than we've ever had in history, and still we have more disease than we've ever had in history. So something isn't lining up. And I'm guessing that most of you are here either because you've had one part of this experience, or maybe you're just feeling like, I just don't feel great, like I'm not sure that this is how I'm supposed to feel. IBS, fem is irritable bowel syndrome. Thank you. Recognizing that not everyone is a native English speaker. Yeah, keep me honest always, please, on these calls. So recognizing, right, that something isn't working, but we have so many tools to make it work. And so that's what we're going to try to uncover, just like peeling the band-aids off and recover a sense of integrity in how we're approaching our well-being and what we can do to improve it. That was a lot to start a webinar with. Are you with me? Are we okay? Lower your shoulders, take a deep breath. If you've got an essential oil already in your back pocket, this is a great time to pull it out if you haven't already. But let's start with something positive, and that is that you were born with a body that, with the right elements, tools, and circumstances, knows how to heal. Of course, the human race, the human society, humanity is comprised of trillions and trillions of very unique individuals. Everyone on this call is a unique individual with a body that, with the right elements, tools, and circumstances, knows how to heal. Part of the discovery of healing, though, of course, is understanding really who we are and what our constitution is and what our unique best case scenario is. And that's going to be different for everyone. And your body is nothing short of a superhero, really and truly. We don't take a lot of time to think about it, but you were born with a liver who is, without you asking it to, continually and relentlessly detoxifying your body. You were born with lungs that, without you asking them to, are providing your body with the oxygen that you need to live. No oxygen, no life, no breath, no life. Of course, in mindfulness, we trend into the arena of discovering how we can be in a more intimate relationship with our breath, but it also has the autonomic side where you're going to breathe whether you're thinking about it or not. And the lungs and the act of breathing is also another detoxification organ, the colon, which is absorbing all of the nutrients we need to stay alive and also getting rid of things, hopefully, that don't need to be in the body, the spleen, the kidneys, the lymph, and the skin. So many aspects of you are nothing short of miraculous. So your body, meaning you, actually are a superhero. How many of you in this moment don't feel like a superhero? How many of you are like, that's a fun idea to try on, but I'm not really sure I'm really a superhero? How many of you, though, would love to be a superhero? I would. Yes, arms are going up really high for those of you that I can see. So guess what, though? Inherently, you are. And it's really quite incredible. And also, this technology is really quite incredible. So those of you using gestures, Amanda, I see you. Thank you so much for engaging and being part of the conversation. What I'd love to add here is not only these physical organs that make you a superhero, but I'd like to add, in this day and age, things like epigenetics and also neuroplasticity. And if those are new words to you, epigenetics, what it means is that in a lot of ways, many of us grew up thinking like we are born with particular genes and that's our destiny. What holistic traditions like traditional Chinese medicine have known for thousands of years, but thankfully quantum science is now catching up with, is the fact that when you change the way you eat, you also influence how your genes are expressing. When you change your environment, you also influence how the way your genes are expressing. Who you choose to be with and spend time with influences how your genes are expressing. So while in many ways we feel like, oh, it's just my karma or it's just my genetics, what we know now is that that is incredibly fluid. And when we get to know ourselves better and better, we can start making choices to amplify the really good, powerful, superhero parts of us, and also to nurture and be gentle with the places where we know we have unique constitutional vulnerabilities. And this is the same for neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is the ability for us to break habit patterns in your neurology in the brain and also reform habit patterns in the brain. It's really astounding. So how many of you on the call have ever felt like, I'm just so like I maybe I have an addictive personality, or even some of these neurodivergent diagnoses we're dealing with these days, and you feel a little bit stuck in your way of being. Like, well, that's just how I am, or that's just how my personality is. I feel like everyone, including myself, has probably said that at one point or another in their lives. But guess what? It's a little bit of a cop out because we know now through neuroplasticity, which is also influenced by what you eat, who you spend time with, your environment, what you're putting on your body, everything that you're interacting with can either help you to have fluidity in your neuroconnections or not. So you really are nothing short of a superhero. And another place we get tricked up here is that a lot of times we aren't making good choices about what we eat, or we aren't making good choices maybe about who we're spending time with or what environment we're spending time in. And that affects the way that our body works. Your liver is a detox organ. But if you are surrounding yourselves with a lot of toxic influences, the liver is still working, but it can't keep up, right? There's too much for it to do. And so maybe it starts to be in dysfunction. And when it starts to be in dysfunction, often we're like, oh, my body is sabotaging me. Oh, my body is really failing me. Has anyone ever felt that about your body or about your mind or about your emotions? Yeah. It's so easy for us to look at the body and be like, it's your fault. You're failing me. But what we're going to look at today and what this whole month of August and actually beyond is about is reweaving the beautiful understanding that the body is always trying its best on behalf of you. And what's happening in our modern world is that a lot of our diseased states are the normal response to abnormal circumstances. And this is really where we begin our conversation, right? And back to that first list, like how many people that I know now that are being diagnosed with thyroid disorders, with irritable bowel syndrome disorders, high blood pressure, cholesterol. Guess what? Cholesterol isn't a disease, it's a symptom. And that symptom arises as the result of a diseased state in the body. But what are we typically doing? Back to put a band-aid on it, we're giving a statin, maybe a medication to lower cholesterol, which might be okay, but it actually isn't addressing what the problem is to begin with. Does that make sense to everyone? And so, as we enter into this realm of foundational wellness and just like returning really to the roots, returning really to like the ground level and starting again with a better know-how, whether you've tried healing strategies, whether you haven't, this is all about taking a global view and understanding of what's really going on, which is that your body is always working on your behalf. And when things go awry, or when we feel like we don't understand anymore what's going on, often, usually, what is happening is the body is continuing to work on your behalf, but the circumstances are so abnormal that it appears to be a diseased state. Another example would be inflammation, right? And I'm talking about systemic inflammation. We have so many cases of chronic inflammation, inflammatory diseases. Inflammation is good. Inflammation is your immune system's response to something going wrong. We tend to demonize also inflammation, like, oh, I have inflammation. But actually, that's your immune system going, Mayday, Mayday, something is, we have an invader, or something is wrong, something is out of balance. That's the first sign your body gives you often that something is wrong. But in today's modern world, with the velocity and the symptomatic based models that most of us are operating within, we almost never look at why did the inflammation arise in the first place. And if we don't look at the why, then we never address the circumstance that's actually causing the body to be in a state of inflammation. And so the body just continues to be in a state of inflammation. And so in this way, again, your body is a superhero. Yeah, right, Kim? Like inflammation has become so normalized. And this is, again, one of these like so common, it's normal, but none of it is normal. And what we wanted to do is discover how to unwind this ball of yarn or peel this onion without crying too much. So, just a couple of statistics. So, approximately 85% of current healthcare spending, and this is a United States statistic, but I'm going to say that it's actually increasing in other places in the world, is related to management of preventable diet related chronic disease. 85% of money being spent to manage disease is managing things that could have been prevented. And we don't want to be ignorant here, right? We know that societally, there are places in life, there are places in the world where it's very difficult for people to have access to the right things, for people to have access to the right education. So we want to be careful to acknowledge that. But I'm guessing that everyone here on the call and many people in your family and community do have access to these things. But it tends to be the velocity of life and also social circumstances and social pressures that keep us from recognizing things at the beginning. Also, 80% of chronic disease and premature death could have been prevented just by simple lifestyle shifts. So while today we are going to talk a little bit about supplementation, this is a huge mayday of like, guys, so much of this is about our choices. And listen, I know that we're creatures of habit. I know that if I said to you, listen, your nail polish is toxic and your favorite shampoo is also toxic, so you need to change them. There's a little bit of like groan inside the body, like, oh, I really love this shampoo. I love how it smells. And I'm just using that as an example, right? We could do it across the board with food, with any kind of habits, right? Like this is how the human creature works. But listen, in your willingness to lean into that a little bit more and say, I know now better, hopefully after this webinar, that these things are actually contributing to the reason I don't feel good. I'm guessing that we could all pull up our bootstraps a little bit more and just lean in and be like, I'm going to make the changes because look here, 80% of chronic disease could have been positively influenced by some simple changes in lifestyle. So let's take a look quickly at what are the abnormal circumstances. The first one is, of course, the symptomatic model. In my introduction, did not tell you that for many years living in Chicago, I'm based in Greece now, I worked in integrative medicine. When I decided to walk the path of holistic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, rather than modern medicine or Western medicine, I always knew that I wanted to work in an integrative setting. And that's because modern medicine is not bad. Modern medicine, in some ways, is responding to the modern condition. And there are miraculous, life-saving aspects of modern medicine. And every physician, even holistic physicians, functional doctors, naturopaths, take an oath when they accept their medical license that says, in part, do no harm. And unfortunately, a lot of the very common symptomatic interventions that we are given, that we go by, that we participate in, while they may have some positive effect on symptoms, they also have a very dark side of some very serious negative side effects. And so when we're looking at this symptomatic model and we're looking at that mindset of, oh, I think I'm coming down with a cold, but I can't dare call in sick to work. So I'm going to go get some oh my gosh, I just lost the word. But all of the over-the-counter medicine, right? Like your NyQuil and your like things. I don't know what it's called in other countries. I know here in Greece we have some of the same names, but like all of those things that your symptoms start to arise, you're like, I don't have time for this. And so you shroud yourself with maybe multiple medicines just to make the symptoms go away so you can keep going. A lot of this is really innocent, guys. It's not your fault. It really isn't, because this is how most of us grow up learning about how to take care of ourselves. But unfortunately, what we've known for a long time, but is only now being revealed in a much more accessible way, is that these symptomatic drugs and pharmaceuticals cause more damage than they actually do good. And so, in this idea of doing no harm, living in the symptomatic model, unfortunately, a lot of us are unknowingly doing harm to our bodies by doing what we were always taught to do. And so, what we're here today to do, and also hopefully for the rest of our lives, is just to continue to shed light on things. And here I love to share one of my favorite quotes, which is do the best you can until you know better, and then do better. And just like we tend to shame our body for failing us when we are unknowingly giving it circumstances that it really can't survive well in, when we are doing things unknowingly, like taking a lot of over-the-counter things to mask symptoms, and then we learn like, hey, there's actually a better way, we don't shame ourselves. No, no. We go, wow, I'm so happy that I got to learn this. And I'm so excited to restructure the way that I'm approaching things. A lot of pharmaceutical drugs are actually based on the wisdom of nature, but synthetically generated versions of active ingredients we found in nature. And these synthetic substances, while they can stimulate your body to do particular things, they are also, because they're synthetic and they're not nature, are recognized by the body as a poison or a toxin and still have to be dealt with as a poison or a toxin. So the very first abnormal circumstance is our symptomatic model, and that symptomatic model is actually bringing us things that many of us are unaware are doing way more harm than they're doing good. And here we'll just take another breather. Right? Maybe just from all of that information, and then you see this nature picture and you already feel yourself relaxing, your cells relaxing a little bit. And here I just want to remind you, in case you forgot, you are nature. Every human being walking this earth is comprised of the exact same elements and constituents of nature, which means that the inherent wisdom that we hear so much about now, almost ad nauseum, from coaches, from speakers, from the wellness industry, right? Who hasn't heard that you have an inherent inner wisdom? This inner wisdom is based on the wisdom of nature, because you are nature. And so an approach with nature isn't something novel, but rather like a returning home, like creating the circumstances within which your body can actually do the things that it knows how to do in a beneficial and productive way, rather than constantly trying to keep up with demands that are also trying to damage it. Second abnormal circumstance. Some of you have seen this picture before. I know you have, and I love it. I borrowed it from my beautiful friend Jen, who isn't on this call today, but is part of my wellness community. And this is because it's such a beautiful picture. Here's a person putting gasoline into their car. Logical. If you want a vehicle to run, you put gasoline in it. If it's diesel, put diesel in it. I learned that the hard way when I first moved to Europe. I took a truck out, and I also had to learn the manual way of driving, which was okay. And I needed to get gas, and I had never owned a car that needed diesel before. So I drove the truck to an Italian gas station and I put benzene in it. And guess what? It broke down on the highway. And I had no idea what was going on. But guess what? Just like we know that a car needs gasoline, we also need the appropriate kind of fuel to allow our bodies to function in all of the superhero ways that they know how to function. And you might already have deducted from the picture before this, guess what those nutrients are? Nature. Those nutrients are a broad spectrum of nature. And so, one of the abnormal circumstances that we are confronting right now is that our food sources are so different than they used to be. Needless to say, we're inundated by non-natural things, processed foods, things wrapped in plastic, ingredients that are just like pharmaceuticals, maybe isolated from something natural, but synthetically generated to the point where it becomes a damaging entity once it's in your body, but also the way that we've overworked the soil, the way that we've overproduced animals. So many of the practices to keep up with a growing population have lent themselves to a state of being where most people are malnourished. Even if you're eating a well-balanced diet, if you're still not feeling good, likelihood of you having some sort of micronutrient deficiencies and mineral deficiencies is really high. And again, here, it might not be completely our fault, but this is something very real that we're confronting in the world right now. In the US, only about 10% of adults meet the recommended daily amounts of fruits and vegetables. And again, we have to take into account socioeconomic incongruencies. And that's not only in the US, I know in the UK there is a lot of this, and I know in other countries there is a lot of this. But I'm even going to say I'm living in Greece right now, and it used to be here that you could only get broccoli when broccoli grew in the broccoli season. And now, because of the pressures of tourism, even in this tiny little fishing village that is not very touristic, but gets a lot of sailing boats, you can find broccoli at the grocery store all year round. And when I pick those heads of broccoli up now, I can feel, right, the grime or the irradiation or whatever it is, the bleaching that is shredding these beautiful plants of their nutritive properties. And this is happening really across the board. And so we're really trying to do our best, maybe many of us. And part of the program is also going to be an invitation to follow a plant-based diet and a whole foods diet, right? Recreating habits that really help our bodies to be nourished in the right way. Because when you get the right nutrients, that's when all of those superhero aspects of you really come to life. Otherwise, no. Another abnormal circumstance is this picture. It's like the trash person at your home went on holiday, left like, thank you very much for all the time we had together, and then never came back. Well, you already know that inside your body, if we think of this accumulation of trash like an accumulation of toxins, we actually have organs that never go on holiday. Your liver doesn't go on holiday. Your kidneys don't go on holiday. Your lungs don't go on holiday. But what's happening because of the toxic nature of life around us is that the organ systems, if you can imagine, are like buried in this dumpster, completely overwhelmed by too much to detoxify, and therefore not able to do their jobs well anymore. And we know that there are tens of thousands of new chemicals being pumped into the environment, our personal care products, our home cleaning products, not to mention our food every single year. Only a small percentage of these are being tested. But even with that tiny percentage being tested, what is ubiquitous, universal, across the board being shown about these chemicals is that they are neurotoxins, toxic to your nervous system, endocrine disruptors, toxic to your hormonal system. They affect the immune system, create cancers, livers. Hopefully, you only have one liver, kidneys. Maybe you have two livers. That would be really exciting. And then you're probably better off than most of us. But unfortunately, in this moment in life, and not only in the right, like US and Canada and Mexico, also here in European countries, we are inundated by so many toxic influences, and our bodies just can't keep up. And worse is that because the wellness industry has been distorted so greatly by consumerism and by capitalism, we are starting to understand that many of the things that are marketed as good for you on the major markets, like essential oils, like supplements, are actually just the same as everything else. Your shampoo, your personal products, your face lotion, full of things that should not ever be going into your body. And here I'll pause because, of course, part of this program, if you've looked into it at all, or whoever invited you here, right, probably told you about these amazing supplements that we use in the program. Well, of course, because we know that there is a huge lack of regulation in the wellness industry. Those of us in this community, I can only claim it for those of us in this community. I know other people are doing wonderful things, but you tend to keep the people close to you that are like-minded and are doing the same work and due diligence you are doing. And as a medical professional, even more so, it's incredibly important to me that when I suggest something to someone, that what is inside the package of that something is exactly what it says on the packaging. And so a lot of us here partner with a company called doTERRA. And one of the major reasons we are partnered with this company is their incredible dedication to research and transparency. Not to mention that there's nothing synthetic. There are no fillers in any of our products. They're all whole foods based. They're pure. They're third party tested, but there is an incredible dedication in this company to research and transparency of the research. So it's not like we're just claiming, oh, these are great supplements. We've actually got the data to back it up. So whoever it is that invited you here must love you a lot, because they want you to really be interacting and really be held and guided by not only the best guides and experts, but also be supported by the best products. The very last abnormal circumstance, and let me check the timer. Are we doing okay? We're doing pretty okay. Is our emotional well-being. How many of you on this call feel like you, throughout the last 10 years, have been steady and stable mentally and emotionally, able to express your anger when it arises, able to tell someone you're frustrated with them when it happens, able to have a good cry when you feel sad? How many of you on the call feel like this is your state of being? Like, wow, incredibly capable and able to have an emotional experience in life that does not feel stifled? I see no hands up. I'm not even going to raise my hand because we all live in society together. And unfortunately, this is another sort of societal deficiency, is that little by little, in this sort of approach of success equals efficiency and how many boxes can you check every day and keep going, and the velocity and the disconnection of our innate humanity means that many of us are just like that dumpster. The same with toxicity, are just kind of collecting our emotions because we have no idea what to do with them. We might not even know what they are at this point. We might be so confused we don't even know what we're feeling when. I know that sometimes even I feel that way, and I've got so many practices in my back pocket, but there's so much coming at us in life, right? Or maybe you just don't feel like you have ever the time or space to emote, to actually feel what you're feeling. But guess what? Every emotion creates a biochemical response in your body. It isn't just the untangible. It isn't just the energetic. It is the very real mind, body, spirit connection. And every emotion that you express or not has a biochemical reaction. And just like that very first example that I gave you with inflammation, if we suck in our emotions, then the circumstances don't change, right, around that emotion. And the biochemical response of anger continues. And this is in part why we all feel a little bit destabilized and scattered and unable to find our center, and probably a little less human, because the circumstances around us and often within us are not enabling us to express our emotions. And now we know also through some very current beautiful research that this does have a physiological effect. It does affect your body. What do all of these things have in common? Does anyone know what this is? I love this picture. Thank you, doTERRA, for making a colorful picture. This is a depiction of your microbiome. And the microbiome discussion is a really hot topic these days, and for really good reason. Because from do no harm to malnourishment to overloaded with toxins to our inability to healthfully express emotions, what all of these things have in common is they disrupt the balance of the microbiome. And we talk about the microbiome a lot related to gut health, but there's actually a microbiome everywhere in your body. The majority of it is in your gut. And the reason this topic is so incredibly important is that the microbiome, this compilation of thousands, trillions of little microbes, bacteria, virus, fungus, a huge integration, a huge diversification of life inside of you, working on your behalf all the time. The reason it's so important is that it maintains the integrity of your gut lining. So when you hear about leaky gut being so common that it's normal, when you hear about IBS being so common that it's normal, now hopefully you can start to begin to connect the dots. I'm not saying these are the only reasons, and I'm not saying if you heal your gut microbiome, that might be the only thing you need to do to heal your chronic disease. But what I am saying is that there's a very important common denominator, which is your microbiome. It is connected to every single system in your body. And when it is disrupted, every single system in your body is disrupted in some small way. The microbiome also houses up to 70%, maybe more, of your immune system. It informs your brain. It tells your brain how to function via the pathway and highway of the vagus nerve. It's really connected to every part of you. And so when we look at these abnormal circumstances, and then we see this common denominator of the microbiome and gut health, hopefully what we begin to see is like a place where we can begin. A place where we can begin to rebuild the foundation of all of it and gain better clarity to all of it, create better integrity. And I'll just give you this example because I want to be really careful too that going natural isn't the end game. It's really going natural in a holistic root cause way. And here I'll just give a quick example, and I know we're getting kind of close to the time, but we're almost there, is allergies. How many people on the call either have allergies or know someone with allergies? Everybody better raise their hand because everyone I talk to is like, oh, allergies, oh, allergies, oh, allergies. How many of you knew that even if you have a genetic predisposition to allergies, that it is completely curable? Did you know that? Some of you, but some no, right? Because what are you taught to do when you have allergies? You're taught to go to the pharmacy and get an antihistamine that suppresses the symptoms to make you comfortable because we don't want to be uncomfortable because there's a lot of life to do and it moves fast and we can't lose our footing and we can't, like all of the pressures of modern life. What now we can say without a doubt is that this is kind of the cycle that most of us have unknowingly been participating in is you have seasonal allergies. Allergies are a manifestation of the inflammatory response of your immune system. So it causes inflammation, which shows up in everyone differently. Stuffy nose, difficulty breathing, itchy eyes, all of the things about allergies, itchy skin, who knows? Then you go to the pharmacy and you get an antihistamine over the counter. The antihistamine creates dysbiosis. It creates imbalances in your microbiome. But because 70% of your immune system lives in the microbiome, you are also depleting your immune function. And so then when the next allergy season comes around, you still have allergies because you ended up in a slightly difficult cycle where you are acting symptomatically, most of the time innocently, but no one has told you yet that that's actually damaging the very system that you need to heal your allergies. On the natural side of things, taking into account pure essential oils, Lemon, lavender, and peppermint is one of our favorite combinations because together, individually, but together even more, are a powerful antihistamine trio. We even have a supplement called Triese that is these three essential oils in a capsule that you can conveniently take. You can do them internally, you can do them topically, you can diffuse them, and the effect that it has is similar to an over-the-counter medication for allergies. But even though it's natural, it still is symptomatic. If you have allergies, there is a big part of the equation that is microbiome dysfunction, that is microbiome disharmony. And so even if we trend into the natural realm and you're like, I've got my essential oils, amazing, I'm going to diffuse and do all the things during allergy season, but you are not addressing gut health, then we're not actually working in the realm of holism. Does that make sense to everyone? And so throughout and within every single program that we offer, we're constantly trying to give education. And as a community, we're constantly offering continuing education. This piece of education and empowerment is always present because there's so much that we just don't know. And again, do the best you can until you know better and then do better. And so not only do we want to go natural, but we also really want to try to exit the symptoms-based model. But what it really comes down to is, what does all of it mean to you? If you went on to Instagram right now, if everyone picked up their other device, please don't, because I'd like to hold your attention for just 7 more minutes. But if you did pick up your phone and you went on Instagram and you started scrolling, I bet within 1 minute, you could find 10 different pieces of information telling you what is good for you and what is right for you. The piece we're missing in this method and delivery of information is it could be something good. Is lavender oil remarkable? It is remarkable. It's incredible, actually. Is it the right oil for you right now? That's determined by you, right? It's only determined by our unique individual stories. And so at some point, and I know these are difficult questions, so I wouldn't imagine that you'd be able to have a succinct answer right now, but I'd love to invite you as you're considering joining us, as you're considering maybe coming into a cleanse with us in the autumn, wherever you are on your journey, I'd love to invite you to peel away some time each day and just check in with you. Like, what is this all about for me? What does health mean to me? When I have optimal wellness, what does that look like to me? Right? Because it's only then that you can begin to interact with things in a meaningful way. I could also sit here and tell you 100 things are good for you, or 100 things are the right answer. But it's only meaningful if it is relatable to your story and to what is meaningful to you. So please take some time and do this. But where we go into the foundational wellness immersion is combining two elements that were also pervasive throughout the entirety of our discussion. And that is this understanding that if we nourish the cells in the proper way, the body knows what to do. And again, because most of us are walking around with nutrient deficiencies, micronutrient deficiencies, mineral deficiencies, we do advocate for a beautifully broad spectrum bioavailable multivitamin, at least for some time during your wellness journey, because most of us aren't getting what we need to allow the body to do its miraculous work. And the second piece of it is to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. How many of you love being uncomfortable? Jury's out. It's like we hear it all the time when coaching business, lean into the discomfort. And how many people have heard that? Like, lean into the discomfort. And have any of you stopped and been like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, what it means in the realm of mindfulness and what it means in the realm of holism is that so much of our society is built around escaping sensations that we deem to be bad or uncomfortable. But just like the example of inflammation, a lot of the signals that our body and our mind and our spirit give us seem a little bit uncomfortable, but they're important signals to let us know that something is going on. And when we continue to follow this approach of, oh, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, mask the symptom. Oh, I'm a little bit, I've got like the pain. Okay, I'll take the ibuprofen and just make the pain go away. And then I go back into the hot yoga studio and I keep doing what was injuring my body in the first place. We keep ourselves in a racket of dis-ease. So we come all the way full circle to many states of dis-ease are normal responses to abnormal circumstances. And this is where the mindfulness piece comes in, not only around emotion, but about helping us to recultivate such an incredibly pristine state of presence, such an incredibly pristine state of awareness. And be careful, it's not one place, it's a fluid place. Nothing in life is static, right? So pristine just means that we hold it, we practice it, we keep it, that we come home to being able to hear the signals that our body is giving us, that we come home to being able to interact without flying off the handle emotionally or otherwise when something seems the least bit uncomfortable. So do I want you to walk around being uncomfortable? Of course I don't. But do I want to welcome you back into the realm of being human, where when a sensation comes, we recognize it as an important communication from our being, our body, our mind, our emotions, and interact with it in the moment so that we avoid getting so far down the path of Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid that we have no idea where to begin? Yes, I'd love to invite you back into that conversation. And that's exactly what we're going to do in the month of August. And so I know we're getting really close to time. So I'm going to kind of fly through that. Those of you joining us in August for the Foundational Wellness Immersion on August 1st, we're going to do an introductory webinar all about mindfulness. So you'll really get to have a deep dive before we start the month and as we start the month. But where I'd love to leave this conversation is to remind you that the grass is greener where you water it. This isn't only physical, right? If you don't water your plants, they wither. If they don't have the right nutrients in the soil, they wither. You are a plant. You are your most precious plant in the garden of life. And where you give your attention is where things are going to grow. And that goes for physical, but it also goes for the mind. Where the mind goes, energy flows, and where energy flows are where things grow. So if we stay in a state of panic, then that amplifies panic. If we stay in a cycle of self-shaming, then we're watering the plant of shame within us. Using the practices of mindfulness, we have a beautiful portal through which we can begin to walk and carry the rest of our lives. It's a practice. Life is always changing around us. There's no end game here. So if you walk in with us, you're in. You come into our community with this beautiful group of people, and we just hold each other along the journey of discovery and wellness and continued healing, right? It's a continued practice. But mindfulness gives us the medicine to become aware of where we're watering things that we don't want to water, and to choose away from that and bring our attention back to the things that we do want to water. And I know we're kind of at time, so I'm also going to skip through this. I'll send this out in the follow-up email, or whoever is going to follow up with you, whoever it is that brought you to this webinar. But just, a lot of general practices before we do anything else, just lifestyle things that we can do to bring ourselves into a deeper and more fruitful conversation with wellness. And this is the last slide I'm really going to talk a lot about, and that is because it's so great to have ideas. How many of you in the last 5 days have scrolled through Instagram or Facebook and liked a quote? When you liked that quote, did you write it down and say, I like this so much that I'm going to try to practice it every day for the next week to see if it's really true? Probably not, right? This is what I call the modern beautiful quote syndrome. So really important that in our approaches that we're not doing beautiful quote syndrome. Like you might be thinking, wow, this was so informative, amazing, really eye-opening, things I didn't know or things I hadn't thought about. And then you walk away and you think that that knowledge is going to change something it isn't. So we need to take the time and identify where an action is needed. Then we need to choose an action. And then we need to act. And we need to hold that action in place for, I'm going to say in general, at least 3 months to know what kind of impact it's actually having. In the world of velocity, it's so easy to be like, I tried lavender last night and it didn't help me sleep. Well, guess what? It didn't help you sleep because it needs time to build up in your system, right? And so we want to be really careful about all of the ways that we approach all of these conversations. And this is why we do things in the format of courses, months at a time, to hold you in the process in an intelligent way, in a supported way, in a guided way, so that we can explore all of this more deeply together and begin to make a lasting and sustainable impact on your well-being. So I want to, in a very heartfelt way, invite all of you to join us for the month of August to the Foundational Wellness Immersion. Whoever it is that invited you to this webinar, they will follow up with you. Please follow up with them. They will tell you what you need to do to opt into the program. And essentially, it's this. We've put together a very foundationally nutritive combination of bioavailable whole foods based supplements that I believe are vital for almost anyone to take at least in intervals throughout the year to make sure that your body is getting what it needs to do what we're asking it to do. And because in our community, we believe so wholeheartedly in the empowerment of education, once you opt in to purchasing the supplements that you need to participate, the rest of the experience is completely free. 30 days of mindfulness course that I created last year, 30 days, an email each morning, an actionable mindfulness exercise that you just carry into your day and practice. You'll get all the instructions. The entire 30 days will build as a crescendo, each exercise building on the last in a very intelligent and comprehensive way. And all along the way, we're going to hold you in a private WhatsApp chat. Myself, Kim, Stephanie, some of my other colleagues, we're all going to hold you together throughout this process with more education, information, support, inspiration. And at the end, where we're going to land is, can I get back there fast? Oh my gosh, I know we're out of time. We're going to be here at the end of the 30 days. So please consider joining us. I'm going to stop there for now. I know I skipped kind of fast over a lot of things. There's a ton of information. I guess you can see that I'm very passionate about talking about this stuff. I hope this was informative. I hope that it was inspiring. Even if you don't join us in August, maybe it has inspired you in one small way to take one different action on behalf of yourself and your well-being. But right now, before I open the two questions, thank you so much, Amanda, for being here. I did not have time, obviously. I've been talking to you the whole time to parse out who's here and who's not here. So I've just scrambled the pieces of paper. We might need to do this twice in case I pick someone who isn't here, but just so we know who is the winner of the prize. And then I'll stay a little longer for questions if you want. Is Lisa here? Lisa isn't here. Is Lisa here? Lisa's here! Lisa, you are the winner of, you're in Mexico, aren't you? Of Easy Air. Uh-oh. Is that a bad thing?
Okay, can you hear me now?
You look excited. Yeah. Are you excited?
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, perfect. So I'm actually in contact with you via email. So I will ask you, I'll write to you to get your address. And you are the winner of an Easy Air product. I wish I could give prizes to everyone who showed up. Maybe come back next year And when our community and our business has grown to the point where we can sustain not only all of the service projects that we're doing, but also prizes for everyone, the next webinar you attend, maybe we're just going to give free oils to everyone. But for today, Lisa, thank you for being here live.
Thank
Thank you
you.
everyone for being here that is here. And if you have a question, please let me know, or maybe Kim, you can help me sort through if you've been watching the chat, if there were any questions that I missed. Anyone have a question that just wants to unmute or feedback or clarification? Yeah, Fem. Thanks, Kim.
Hi, Mo. Yes. So I understand it's not a cleansing program. Can you give me just beside, and I missed the price for the whole program because I'm quite
Yeah.
interested to join.
Yeah.
And because I'm using already some doTERRA products. So I'm just out of curiosity, I'm just wondering what kind of supplements or products are they from doTERRA or
Yeah. Yeah. So all of the supplements are coming from doTERRA. And
yeah.
essentially, because we have a multinational group, right now there are slightly different supplements in different countries, which means that sometimes the packet is a little bit different from people, which is why I didn't present it because I know that we're global. And like in Mexico, there's one version of the supplements. All of the supplements contain the same things. They're just in different versions because of legalities. And so, Fem, I can send you the European version, but essentially for everyone, there we are using a broad spectrum multivitamin, highly bioavailable multivitamin. And for some of you, that multivitamin is coming together with a greens and whole foods complex, a really special thing that we actually just got in Europe. So I'll talk to you on the side about that, Fem. We are partnering that with an omega supplement, with a probiotic, with a digestive enzyme to lower the activation energy of everything and make sure that your body is really digesting and absorbing all of the goodness of these supplements. And then we're going to be using lemon essential oil, which supports the liver in its detoxification process. So it's not a cleanse per se. We do have the cleanse and restore program, which is a more intensive cleanse. This is really more about supporting in a loving and very nutritive way the foundation of all of the functionality of your body. So the lemon essential oil is partnering with the supplements to just make sure that our detox pathways stay open throughout the 30 days. And also peppermint oil. We're going to use that in our morning ritual and also sometimes in our mindfulness exercises. And I'll be teaching you a little bit more about the qualities of peppermint as well. So that's the foundational package. And depending on what country you're in, you can again connect with either me or the wellness advocate who invited you, and they can help you discover exactly which supplements are available and necessary in your country. And the price range, I'm going to say, if you're starting from zero, is around €200, depending on where you are in the world. But that's if you're starting at zero. I know we have some people who have done multiple programs with us, so you might already have a few of the things. And that's why it's great to connect with your wellness advocate so they can just help you know what you need to add to what you already have to have the full component of stuff that we're using for this month. So I'll be in touch with you, Fem. Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah. Any other questions, comments, feedback? Are we happy? Can you see how much I'm sweating on the Zoom camera? No, good. I'm like dripping sweat. Um, Great, Patricia. Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here. All right, gang. So if there are no other questions, and let me just make sure you're not popping anything into the chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Listen, registration, technically is closing in the next few days because we want to give you time to get your stuff. And I'm going to say that one of the things I didn't realize is also really pervasive in life right now is that there are many people in your life just waiting for an invitation, just waiting to be invited. And they might even be people who are looking at you living your holistic lifestyle, questioning you and doubting you and this. If there are people in your life that you feel like could benefit from a program like this, invite them. Ask your wellness advocate, ask your leader for a link for the information, write to me. I don't care. I'm happy to support all of you, all of the communities. That's what we're here to do together. Whoever it is that feels most familiar, write to them, ask them for the information. There's one person out there that is really just waiting for an invitation to be part of something like this in a community like this. So if you know that person or 5 of those persons, invite them to join us so that we can just be a huge global amoeba of goodness traveling through the ethers together for the whole month of August. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Lisa, write to me with your address, please. And I will look forward to journeying through this beautiful experience together in August. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.